Yay, we're live on the
Okay.
internet. You could drive a truck through it. Actually, did you hear that guy? His the one senator that died, the really old guy from Alaska. I actually heard the entire thing. It isn't the best analogy because he's really old, but he actually got it. He got the idea of data packets moving information around and stuff like that. So he actually had a pretty good idea about it. But the way he said it and the way it came out in those bits just did not make him look good. And I was like, come on.
What was his name?
Dang it. Let me look it up. I don't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Senator from Alaska.
Senator.
He died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Ted Stevens.
Yes, Ted Stevens. He's the one who said you could drive a truck through it, and that was the clip that got on the internet and everywhere. Everybody's like, who does he know what he's talking about? He actually did. I listened to the whole thing. And, I'm not a big fan of Republicans, but if they get something right, they should be given credit for it.
Well, I'm a huge fan of removing the political allegiance from people's truth, right? Because the truth isn't politically affiliated.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah, just the honest facts, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that, and there have been some Republicans that have said stuff that are like, hey, X is not right. And I'm like, hey, I'll give them credit for it. You don't sit there and just boo-hoo somebody just because you don't like their politics. And I don't do that. I will go after them if they say something horrible, like it's okay to cage kids or something. Like, that's just not right.
Yeah, advocating for violence and harm is probably the only stuff that's not really protected by the First Amendment, right?
No, it's not.
Triggering people to violence.
Well, all violence is political anyway, so.
Actually, I think I need the link here for.
You're lagging again. StreamYard. Paste. Versus capitalism. Uh-oh. Back again.
Cool. And thinking the link might have worked. There we go.
How's it going?
All right.
Hey.
So we got everything working.
Yay.
Right,
I put a link up. I put the link up to that one thing I was talking about, the 15 hours a week. That's what, because of technology, we should be working at right now.
Okay. And then do you want to do intros real quick, and then?
Oh, well, I'm Save versus Capitalist. It's my channel. You are Gavin Brenner, apparently running for Missouri Senate in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Daniel Quieter?
Quitter. Always
Quitter.
quitter. Never quitter.
Okay.
Rarely quitter.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. Didn't want to. I grew up outside the U.S., so I've seen some pretty funky names and how they're spelled. So,
Oh, they're everywhere.
yeah.
I think you're the most famous person here, Thomas. You want to introduce yourself?
I don't know about famous, but I ran for state senate here in New York in 2020, and I'm already working on running for 2022, building the team. I announced my intention to seek the race around the same time everybody else does. It's kind of how it works. But interestingly, in announcing that I was considering to run again, the news station that came and interviewed me misstated it and stated it as an announcement. So I ran with it. I'm announced. I'm running for state senate in whatever district New York decides I live in. The redistricting week. We don't expect to know until January because they're so efficient.
Yeah, New York has never been known for. I remember watching a movie, and this guy was like, he's from New York, and he's New York abstains. Like, why is it you're saying that? And he says, well, if you've been to the Assembly of New York State, you would understand why I'm saying that. And not much has changed since the American Revolution.
Yeah, well, it's gotten a little worse. Our legislature functions much like our Congress at the national level. Really doesn't do the work. Other people are doing the work. They show up. They really don't get a whole lot of choice in what they do by the time they're there. It's interesting. But I intend to, if elected, I intend to go to Albany and show people what a work ethic is like.
Oh, very good.
Okay, now, okay, that was weird. Okay, what is your political point of view?
Regarding.
Oh, I guess like like affiliation.
Yeah, I'm a libertarian.
Great.
Libertarian.
How long have you been a libertarian?
Since 2019. Before that, I was independently registered. I never chose a party. I couldn't. I couldn't choose between the parties that they taught us about in school. They didn't teach us about all the parties in school, by the way. In New York, here we learned about Democrats and Republicans and the Green Party and the Conservative Party and the Working Families Party. But they never mentioned libertarians, and there's an awful lot they didn't mention.
Yeah, I actually didn't even know about the libertarians until Vermin Supreme decided to campaign in that party. So, I mean, he kind of introduced me to libertarianism.
So, for me, I actually got called a libertarian before I knew what one was. And then Gary Johnson happened, and libertarianism is kind of the forefront in the news for a bit, and more opportunity to seek the knowledge of what libertarianism is. And it's a lot of things to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. We do consider ourselves a big tent. We do welcome voices and consensus. It's interesting, even if you watched 2020's presidential debates, you'll see that all of the candidates, there's a certain amount in which they agree because they're all libertarians, right? But when it came to the details of their approaches and policy, you would watch these people actually, changing their minds about this and tweaking it. And then the other one changes their mind about something else and tweaks that until ultimately they result in the same policy.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking that like this type of competition kind of like creates the optimal candidate in a way to where the public kind of shapes their candidate as that candidate emerges, in a sense. But there's a lot of things that they don't really get rid of in a way. So I guess my biggest question I had for you tonight was probably like how do you differ from the traditional libertarian platforms? Like I myself probably only agree with about 40% of it, but I don't really necessarily consider myself a libertarian in a lot of ways.
Well, so the Libertarian platform takes pretty hard stances. Have you read it?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, like, I disagreed almost immediately with like open borders and that sort of thing, just because I lived near the Mexican border before.
Right. So they're pretty hard stances. They're pretty firm. That is the principles, the baseline. But can we? Okay. So libertarians don't like welfare. Can we just turn it off? Can we just no more welfare? Would that be good? Right. So libertarians also don't like hurting people, and we understand that if we just did that to welfare, that would hurt people. Right. So there are many different approaches to that. Mine is more pragmatic and involves removing the restrictions on our rights regarding welfare before actually reducing welfare to bridge that gap, that trap issue that we have. If you're not familiar with the welfare trap, I can define it very well. I am in it.
I want to try something.
Sure.
Yeah,
Can Gavin step out for a
oh, yeah. Yeah, we can't see you, boss.
So is it really differing to take a more realistic and pragmatic approach to changing things more slowly and giving more opportunity and allowing the community to grow and thrive as it would? I don't think that's all that different. It's just not as scary. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
okay, just no. Actually, Gavin, could you do me a favor? I'm going to drop the thing for a second to see if because I'm having some problems, and I'm trying to see if you being on somebody being on there.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Okay, Mr. Quater.
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 Quater. KWEE-TER phonetically.
Okay.
Yeah. Think French.
Try this. See if this will work. Just 1 second. And let's see if this works. Okay. Try talking to me again. See if that helps.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. I was afraid of that. I live out in the middle of nowhere. My internet is total crap. So, yeah. Do you mind if I ask about where in upstate, where in New York you live? I used to live in like the Binghamton area.
Okay, so I'm about an hour north of that, and about an hour south of Utica.
So, it's like
Syracuse County.
Syracuse.
Say that again.
Syracuse?
No. Syracuse is west of Utica. I'm an hour south of Utica and an hour north of Binghamton. So I am in nowhere. Sticks. Deer in town.
Ouch. Yeah, that sounds like the. Sorry, I have a cat that's addicted to cat treats, and if I don't give her the cat treats, I get meowed to death. So I'm gonna try bringing him on again and see if that.
Yeah, better.
Hey.
You should put on a profile picture.
What?
You should put on a profile picture so you're like a talking head.
No, I did that to hopefully cut down on the stream. I think all of us have internet problems and it's just accumulating.
Everything's coming in fine on my end.
I mean, I look on the actual program, it's fine. But Unfortunately, I can't use the actual stream because there's a lag in the system,
Kevin, you're a
and it's too
candidate.
much to have a communication.
I'm not registered.
Okay. What party are you going to run for? Are you going to run independent?
So I'm actually debating that internally still. I guess so. I'm affiliated with the American Balance Party, which is not a registered party.
Okay.
It was formed in the year 2000.
So you'd have to
and
petition as an independent anyhow.
yeah.
Put on
We're
your-
actually we're an alliance against political parties. We protest that political parties are the death of independent voting.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
would you consider
this was
yourself
going
an
to happen.
anarchist?
I mean, I think that there should be like a diverse republic, and I believe that each individual could potentially that has the potential to be a minority.
Yep. Yeah, libertarians
that-
believe that the individual is the smallest minority.
Yeah, and I also believe that you're the only person that could represent yourself, like your own needs as an independent, like as an individual in a society. So I think that each of us has our own duty to step forward if they feel unrepresented by that government.
You know, as a disabilities advocate with a severe and unique genetic condition, I'd have to completely agree.
I feel like we each have
guys,
our own genetic disposition in a way.
I have an idea. Why don't both of you try to? Because I'm having I'm getting like glitches, and I can't understand what either one of you are saying. If you could like cut off, maybe that'll stop the bandwidth enough to where
You want me to turn the camera on?
it won't.
Yeah, we can move to audio if you want.
Yeah, maybe that'll do it. I hate doing that, but
Yeah, see if you can hear us now better.
we'll keep on talking.
Okay.
So, Gavin, I got a couple questions for you. I always do this to people, especially if they're running for office. Do you consider yourself a serious candidate, or are you carrying a flag?
Oh God, that's a hard question. If I'm carrying a flag or not.
You can be both. But the point is, are you a serious candidate, or are you carrying a flag, or are you a serious candidate carrying a flag?
Right. Okay. So I guess I would be carrying the American flag, right?
Well, that just means you have a cause you're supporting, right? A message you're getting out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. My child's future in this country. That's very important to me. I believe that he has the right to have a healthy society by the time he comes of my age, and it's my responsibility to bring that future into fruition if no one else can.
That's great.
So, do you think you can win?
I think that every person who feels that way, that certain drive to bring the world into a better place, has the opportunity to win in this country. They just have to fully realize that and bring it about. But I think that there's so many things in the way currently, things that I'm advocating against by electing me, like the ability for any person to step into that role effectively without being put down by like advertising, like in the billions of dollars and that sort of thing, campaigning against you. Slander and defamation is very common when you run for candidate.
Yep.
So
it sounds like you're generally against the entire concept of what we know as the political machine when it comes to any major party, and I would argue or I would assume that you're also against anything that keeps anyone from running for office for any reason.
Oh yeah, I think that the best candidate for the job is the person that should get it. The best person for the people. And I don't think that person is often put up to the front stage.
And do you think that maybe sometimes those people are suppressed?
Oh God, yeah. Especially in the case where I was advocating for Mark Charles in the last presidential election, and he was one of the most censored candidates out there.
So, as a libertarian, I don't care if you consider yourself a flying spaghetti monster party. I would work with you already.
Oh, great. Yeah, because I think that we have enough in common with I think that I have enough in common with libertarians to agree with them on a lot of places. But to run as a libertarian, I think to run as a
Did you know
libertarian
that
party member.
we even have a libertarian socialist caucus?
Oh, I'm not interested in socialism actually. Libertarian
Well, neither
socialism.
am I. But
Yeah.
my point is, I'm not a libertarian socialist at all. But the point of it is, we're a big tent, and um, the party is made up of those who show up, and we are all about decentralization. I'm not trying to encourage you to be libertarian, but I'm trying to point out more things we have in common.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm actually I don't mean to like dox myself or anything like that, but I'm an activist with Vermin Supreme, so I don't think that's very serious. But
Well, yeah,
I mean, I love Vermin's platform. I think he's brilliant. I would vote for him in a heartbeat, and I would run with him if I could in any way, But at the same time, like I think that we differ in opinion in a lot of ways, sure. But
I gave him
like
a T-shirt.
I got a
Wow.
Vermin bumper sticker, and like my wife paints and stuff like that, and she made me a Vermin painting. It was cute.
Ah, that's cool. Oh, I want to say something here. I actually am, out of everybody here, I am the libertarian socialist / anarcho communist.
Ah,
So
so you're the Fed.
I'm the what?
The Fed. It was a joke.
Oh, well, no. I mean, I think that the biggest problem is capitalism. I mean, right now we have a system where if you've got money, you're fine, but if you don't have money, you're SOL, and that's, I think, the biggest problem. I mean, I was talking to Gavin earlier about the mudsill theory, and I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
I'm not a philosophical libertarian. I'm an experienced libertarian.
Okay, what's that supposed to mean?
That means I live it. I've known it.
Yeah,
I
lives
don't
in
read
a-
Hayek. I don't read Mises. I don't need to.
Okay, so what you're saying is, have you heard about Grafton, New Hampshire?
Say that again.
Grafton, New Hampshire, where they tried true libertarianism and it failed miserably.
No, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah. Basically, what happened was in Grafton, New Hampshire, a bunch of libertarians moved in, what you would call either anarcho-capitalists or libertarian capitalists, whatever you want to call it. And they went in, said, we're going to shut down all public stuff. You could do however you please. And basically, bears started moving into the town because people would dump their garbage outside their house and wouldn't do anything with it. And it became a real mess.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those quick change, hard policy change scenarios that I mentioned. Non-pragmatic, too quick, too much, too fast.
Okay, then how would you see? Okay, I want you to paint me a picture of how you see libertarianism actually working in America, in a town.
Ooh, I think I can answer that actually, because I think he already explained it pretty well. Is slow integration of policy. Like you'd have to like trickle things down. Like you'd have to like turn down the volume on all these policies slowly.
So there's a misnomer when we talk about libertarianism, right? Every libertarian has their libertarian utopia, and let's face it, every philosophy nerd has their own utopia, and the question is, how do we get there, and what happens along the way? So, what you're describing in this town sounds like they tried to do it all at once, without any mitigation, without enough time for consideration, and without actually doing the work and effectively changing policy in a way that's meaningful and representative. I think the best way to get closer to libertarianism, which I'm not trying to flip a light switch here. I'm not trying to do that myself. I mean, I have my own libertarian utopia ideal in my head, but dreams are for sleep. We need to make the obvious and beneficial changes we can, and when it's good, we should do it. So to that note, right, I personally follow a no harm policy. Personally, I will
Okay.
not vote to do anything or vote for anything that would cause harm, insofar as I could surmise at the time.
Okay.
That I won't ever be wrong, right? But if I believe that a policy is good and won't cause harm, I'll vote for it. If I want to propose a policy, I'll make sure that it's something that I believe won't cause harm. And that's why I believe in options over edicts. That's why, see, I mean, what you mentioned was that they just shut it all down, right? And
Yeah.
that can't work. There's no scenario in which something is functioning in a way, whether it's to a good enough degree for our liking or not. There's no way you can just shut it all down all at once and not have something to mitigate. So I mean,
Okay.
seek policy first, slowly.
Oh no, I understand that. You can't even with being an anarcho-communist, we can't just do it all at once. But there are people doing stuff in as far as anarchy goes, as far as anarchism goes, that are succeeding. Like I have a friend of mine who lives in Canada. You can see his channel. It's called Re-Education on YouTube. Aaron does a great job of. He goes to a lot of these like restaurants and stores and gets their food they're going to literally throw away and gives it to people who need it.
Yep. And we have states in the U.S. to make that illegal. In Connecticut, grocery stores are forced to pour bleach on into the dumpster.
Yeah. But that's because of capitalism.
Right. Well, whichever. Right. So, right. That argument is you ever hear the we've never had perfect communism. It's never been real communism. It's never been perfect socialism. We never tried this socialism, right? Same goes for capitalism. Let's face it. All of the isms are corruptible.
It's okay. Go ahead. Finish speaking.
Yep. So I would argue that a lot of what we have today is crony capitalism, or capitalism too far entwined with our politics. And I would argue, which I'm not arguing for one over the other here, right? I'm taking an equal stance, that any one of them in an overstructured system is going to become corrupt. And the fight against corruption is not something that's ever ended, right? There's no system you can put in place that's going to guarantee no corruption. We have to keep working at it. We have to keep it in the forefront of our minds that we don't want corruption. And I don't care what ism it is we instate and chase.
Okay, so can I add to here just a little bit of perspective, in a sense that I for one am against like a lot of these ism worships, in a sense that capitalism, communism, socialism have all failed throughout history. Like you said, we've never had real this, or we've never tried this in a way. And what we have right now isn't any of those in particular isms. It's a subsect of one of those becoming corrupted drastically, right? So we have lobbyists who move policies instead of people opting their government to get the policies passed. Like the road, for example, is like covered in glass down the street, and no one has cleaned it up for weeks. I'm considering going down there and cleaning up all the glass on the street myself. You know?
Hey, voluntarism, right?
Yeah.
Do the work.
But
Well,
I
can I say
that
something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. See, that's why I like the idea of, okay, here's the problem. The United States and the Western society have stopped any form of communism, socialism outside of the Western world. Like, for example, the United States invaded Vietnam, flat out invaded it because we didn't like their government. We have assassinated, like, Allende in, I think it's Chile. I don't remember the exact country offhand. But the CIA went in and assassinated them because they were going to have start socialist policies. The West has repeatedly stopped it for the simple fact that the billionaires don't want to have to pay any more than anything at all, and they want us all to be their servants, and we should be grateful to them because they exist. And I'm sorry, when you're a billionaire, you do not earn your money. It is physically impossible to earn $1 billion. You have to exploit somebody, pay them as little as humanly possible to get that much money. And that's not right. I'm sorry. You should pay somebody a living wage and you should treat them like a human being.
Yeah, there are plenty of arguments for that, and there are always going to be bad people in the world, and some of them are going to be rich, and some of them aren't. What ism is going to stop that?
Yeah, I don't think that there is an ism that is beyond corruption, because all of those isms are currently being practiced in corrupted states. Not like states in the United States, but states as in like governments around the world.
So what actually corrupts, right? It's power. Power corrupts. We know this. It's the oldest lesson that we could have in politics, is that power corrupts. So what's the key to lessening or keeping the corruption at bay? Well, that's decentralization, in my mind.
Okay, here's the problem with that. You can if you keep capitalism and decentralize everything, you
I
will
didn't
get
necessarily
companies.
say keep capitalism. I just said decentralize.
Okay, then explain to me how you think it would look if you're not saying keep capitalism.
Well,
Maybe not. Doesn't matter.
You could still have cryptocurrency in a communist country. For example, the only reason China doesn't have Bitcoin right now is because they banned it. So you could have decentralized currency networks on that style of a system, as long as it's not forbidden.
I would argue that likely just because they banned it doesn't mean that there aren't folks over there that are working with it. There's always a workaround. Somebody's doing it.
Oh yeah, their problem right now is the power grid. They're refusing to import coal, so they just can't mine it.
I mean, like for example, in Vietnam, they use cryptocurrency because the United States is being a real pain in the butt still about making it hard for them to trade with anybody outside in the Western society.
Right. So I want to be fair to myself and to you, gentlemen. My focus is on state level politics. I focus on New York and what's good for New Yorkers and for people in my district. I'm real big about being a representative. National stuff, I have opinions on, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert or deeply involved. When it comes to New York, I've got it down.
That's what's up, man. I'm actually really excited for New York to have you.
It's interesting. I was able to make friends, seated friends on both sides through the last campaign. I was the first one invited to the Chenango County, my county candidates forum. They do one pre-primary and pre-general, and I don't even have a line yet. I need 4,500 signatures to get the Libertarian line. I might get some other lines sounding like I will. We have fusion voting here in New York. It's very complicated and stupid. But I did well enough at meeting my constituents with their problems and trying to represent them while still being a libertarian. That I've got a decent base. We had a fundraiser last week, actually this Tuesday. Sorry, this past Tuesday, and we packed 50 people into a diner, which is pretty good. We raised money. We were seen and heard. We canvassed for it. People are already noticing, and it's early. It's early. That's the way I like it.
Yeah, I got to get started on actually physically campaigning, but I've been in isolation physically because I don't want to take the plunge, as it were.
Right.
That's understandable.
I have the advantage that it ran last cycle, so I've got a base.
Yeah, I actually have an intellectual property actually that I was planning on using for my campaign called Jello Duel. And it's where I campaign with two large tarps and a cooler of Jello, and allow participants to interact and settle the differences by throwing Jello at each other like adults. It's a promotion of nonviolence, of settling differences.
I like that. That's. I like that.
Fair warning. You're a candidate. There's no way you're going to go through that without getting Jello thrown at you.
Oh, actually, yeah. So that was one of my favorite stories of the campaign so far, because I went on a national tour on the eastern half of the United States. I went to Orlando and Tampa in Florida, and then I went to Boston, Massachusetts, South Dakota by Mount Rushmore, and Dallas, Texas. And I stopped halfway in Kansas along the way to meet some friends. But in Boston, that was my favorite story. Was two old ladies were kind of drunk and they stumbled into the park, already arguing about the best way to screw, whether it's Phillips or flathead. You know, so I was like, perfect. You know, so they got on the
Usually
tarp.
their answer is taxpayers.
Yeah, so they get on the tarps and they decide to throw the Jello at me the whole time, and I said, that's the lesson to learn here. You always aim at the person dividing you, and
Yeah.
never at each other.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question of both of you. First for Thomas and then for Gavin. Okay, Thomas. Hello?
Yes, I'm waiting.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you. I didn't know if you had been. I didn't know if you were stuck or something like that. I just wanted to make sure you could respond. Okay. You were talking earlier about getting rid of welfare. I have a question for you. I'm currently on dialysis. If the government did not provide my dialysis, I would die in 7 days. What would your worldview / policies do to not let me die?
So that's a very good point. I'm also receiving an intravenous treatment. It's not dialysis, but it's an intravenous treatment without which I would die. Interestingly, though, a few years ago, I reapplied for the same wheelchair I'd had 5 times before, and with the changes to healthcare here in New York, they came back and they told me I couldn't have that one. I didn't qualify. They wouldn't pay for it. And they gave me a range of wheelchairs to choose from, each one of which would have led to injury and death within a few months. So obviously, I did not take that option. I struggled to keep the current chair repaired, and I ended up finding one on eBay, same exact chair I needed, by the way. And libertarians crowdfunded it for me. So in those kinds of situations, there are solutions we can do, from crowdfunding to direct help in whatever the situation is. And I believe that I come from a small community, so to me, this is normal. People do that. Um, Now, when it comes to something like dialysis, that your neighbor can't just come over and give you dialysis, right? I mean, it's a lot more
No.
complicated.
Oh yeah.
So how do we get to the point where it's more libertarian and yet you don't lose your dialysis? Well,
Yeah.
that's by providing options, right? So if you're getting disability assistance and it's mandated in a certain way, and they're willing to spend all kinds of money on you, but it's not going to help you because they don't allow it to be spent in a certain way, I say we already have the numbers. We already know what people are going to cost. Why not just cut them the check to solve their own problem? It's not going to cost more, and they're likely to get a better outcome, either to them or their caregiver, depending on the situation, right? And
Okay.
therefore, right, we don't take away the system that leaves you with your dialysis. And in general, over time, I think that this could reduce the overall cost of the healthcare system and eventually provide better care for less money to people in situations like yours. So it's not right. So that's the other thing. People expect a libertarian to come out with what a Democrat or Republican would come out with, which would be like a blanket policy, one size fits all. Sorry, I'm literally a giant midget, and I can tell you that one size does not fit all. I fall outside the mold for healthcare at every turn. My dentist is a pair of pliers because they refuse to treat me. How does
And
that
exactly.
sound?
See
Right?
that's why. See that's why That's why I'm an anarchist. Okay. I know you're not necessarily a fan of the whole socialist, communist thing, but I'm of the opinion that everybody should just get health care. It doesn't matter who you are, you should just get it. So
Right.
when you go into
So,
that,
yeah, I mean, ultimately for me, it's not about whether or not they should get health care. It's about whether or not we should pay $100 for $20 worth of health care, whether or not we should provide adequate health care in needs, right? And often enough, we're not providing what's adequate. If we were, I wouldn't be working my ass off all day, every day, crowdfunding the needs that aren't met for those with disabilities here in New York. I mean, I can take on a workload greater than I could ever accomplish if I wanted to, in a heartbeat. Um, I'm crowdfunding for a gentleman now. He was injured in boot camp in the 80s and discharged by the military in such a way that he wouldn't qualify for benefits, right, over the injury. He ended up going through 8 knee replacements, ended up with an infection, lost a leg, and now he can't get around his own home. I've hooked up with a nonprofit, and we're crowdfunding to remodel his home for accessibility. Right? This is a gentleman who spent his life giving to the community, working hard, and he's never really had a whole lot. This is something we can do that the government wouldn't even approach.
Okay.
So,
yeah, go ahead. Well, I have a
That's
question.
wonderful.
I actually want to say something on that. That's where, because I'll tell you right now, as far as being an anarchist goes, we do a lot of fundraising too.
yep.
We do a ton of it. As a matter of fact, I was a part of one before my wife passed away. I participated in one that gave first, like those, there's those little first aid kits, but then there's those like community sized ones that are freaking huge. They have a ton of stuff in it.
Yeah, the suitcase.
Yeah. I participated in that. And we do a lot of that. But see, the thing is, I noticed there's one small flaw in all of your thinking here. The problem is this. Every time you turn to capitalism, i.e. use money, the prices of things will always go up, no matter what. It's the nature of things. Inflation, fears, whatever. But if we just go to resource allocation and that's it, I think we have a much better way of just taking care of it. Because, like, for example, I don't know if I might have said this before, but I've got a friend in Canada that just gets food to people. No government, no bureaucracy, none of that garbage. Now imagine if communities were based along that line to where, hey, Bob down the street needs a loaf of bread. He can't get out of his house. We'll just get it to Bob.
You're describing my community.
Exactly. But see, the thing is, I'm not talking about money.
Yeah,
nowhere have I mentioned
rural town. If somebody needs help, it's usually there.
Yeah.
Not always money. Sometimes it is, but it can be food. It can be a ride to work. It can be plowing their garden. It can be doing their chores while somebody's in the hospital, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's called mutual aid. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's like literally the basis of communism.
Yeah, so that's one of the most interesting, right? Yeah, and I do understand that. And there's a whole lot of various arguments for communism and socialism that some are more agreeable than others. And I don't really want to get into all that. But let's put it this way, right? Mutual aid is something libertarians embrace. Mutual aid is the reason I survived childhood. Mutual aid is something almost every American partakes in some way or another, whether they realize it or not. Right?
Yeah.
I gave a speech on libertarian legacy and why you should want one and how to make one at the Freedom Summit here in New York and Syracuse last weekend. Now, and it reminded me, every time that you crowdfund a disability need, every time that you stop at the firehouse and buy a piece of chicken to support the firehouse, that's libertarian. That's mutual aid one way or another. I mean, I know you don't exchange money, but you're voluntarily supporting a cause, and you can do it without money. You're absolutely right, and it does happen.
Mutual aid. I'm talking about specifically no money involved.
I know, but
that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think of it this way: all of those people in the firehouse, all right, they would get, because they're doing an incredible job for the community, they would get the food they need. Their kids would go to the schools they needed them to go to. You know what I'm saying? They would just get the resources.
I get it. But we're already practicing something that's at least partway there.
Yeah. And that's why I say we should go full way through it. I mean, we don't need huge government. We don't need like, all we need is communities making sure that people get what they need, and that's it.
Yeah, so that's hard to disagree with, right? I mean, who wouldn't disagree with it? But the problem comes in: can you get enough people on board with it? Would that actually be representation to instate it? So you've got to work on it, right? It's got to take time. It's got to happen. It's got to happen a little slower, and we all want our things to happen, right?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight. I wouldn't say that at all. But you like the idea, though, and I think it's somebody like you would. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, who wouldn't like the idea? I mean, where I live, different people in the neighborhood might have different success in their garden crops. Right? Somebody's got more cucumbers, somebody's got more tomatoes. Well, guess what happens? It's not a trade. There's no money involved. They just give each other cucumbers and tomatoes.
Yeah, it's called the gift economy.
So
Yeah.
a bit of a reality check too, in the sense that like a lot of the ideas that you're proposing here, you know, would never be funded by the people who fund mainstream campaigns, in a sense that like a lot of the people we'd be running against are paid to advocate against these ideas.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Right. Whereas the first deliverable my campaign will come out with this cycle is actually a 3 to 5 page document they can download with small community minded efforts that people can make on a voluntary basis to improve their surroundings and help each other out. I believe hard times are coming, and I want people to be prepared to know each other and to help each other out. And I think we're developing something good there.
Oh yeah, no, I don't expect. See, that's the reason why we have direct action people. They go out. Now there are people who protest, but I'm talking about people who just, like I said before, just get food to people. They go around to people who live in apartments and going, you know, maybe we could organize you to make sure the landlord isn't totally screwing you raw. You know, that sort of thing. Making sure people just get health care. It's not impossible. If you ask the average person and they go, look, how would you like it if you lived in a society that was X? Most people would like that. The second you mention the S word, the C word, people flip out because they've been told that these things are bad by so many people.
Do you mean to tell me that our government's been feeding us propaganda for over 100 years?
I'm sorry, what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
I said, do you mean to tell me that our government's been feeding us propaganda for over 100 years?
Yes.
So I think by labeling these ideologies, by giving them names, right, you make them enemies, something that people can focus against, right? So,
well, I mean, no, I agree with you. You use those names because I have a friend of mine. I served on active duty. My friend served on active duty, and we were talking. And I don't know if you know, but in the movie Sicko, Michael Moore took a bunch of U.S. vets to Cuba to get them their medication they needed. And he was like, well, that's really cool. But the second I mentioned socialism, he flipped out. It's like he's been trained to hear that word, and it's bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, well, so.
You've been trained to hear capitalism as a bad word.
Yeah. Don't turn on the news. I haven't had cable in years.
Well, I mean, you're not being brainwashed that capitalism is bad because we have people who literally are working for companies, begging to be paid a living wage, and the company says no. And when these people have to go on food stamps and all that sort of stuff, they're blamed because the company won't pay them enough. I'm sorry.
A lot of big corporations have too much pull in our government, and a lot of that is manufactured by those companies. So maybe if the government was actually for the interest of the people, we'd have a better shot. But it's hard to disagree with you.
But the problem is you can't have capitalism and have true democracy because the capitalists will use their money to influence the politicians.
Well, nobody's trying to influence me, I can tell you that much.
Oh, no. We're all individually stick-type people. But see, I understand the fact that people live in communities, and we have to sit there and go, look, we can't have people living off, I mean, if you want to live out in the middle of nowhere, fine. You can do that. But if you live as a part of a community where people are in it, you have to do things that are part of that community.
Do you mean to tell me that we have to function like rational human beings?
You mean treat other human beings like human beings? Yes.
How dare you call me?
Yeah, I know.
I like how you've been establishing this trope throughout the show.
What's that?
Oh, the you mean to tell me trope.
Oh yeah. No. It's if you look at the average person, it's only the billionaires who feel this entitlement to sponge off the rest of us that it's a problem. And that's the part that I have a problem with. You know, I mean, if you sit there and say, hey, I'm going to hire you, but I'm going to pay you shit, a total and utter shit, and then you're going to be grateful for my job and I'm going to own you like property. No, nobody should be treated like that. Period.
Another example of authoritarian coercion, right?
Yeah. You know, we supposedly have democracy in our government. We have democracy in other places. Why can't we have it in the workplace?
Yeah,
I consider democracy to be a dirty word.
right. So I mean, it almost seems like every ism and Nazi is a problem. And again, I think the best way to combat that right now is to just focus on decentralizing whatever we can, in whatever way we can, and providing better options with whatever money we can't stop the government from taking.
Which is why I'm an anarchist. So,
well, yeah, I mean, look, I don't disagree with you. I don't.
you know, I mean, because the other thing too is with my community model, somebody can be disabled and still function. They can still do stuff. I am disabled
and I do function.
No, but you know what I mean. So am I. But you know what I mean, though. I'm talking about the fact that you can still be a part of society, because right now, disabled people get treated like crap. They get treated like the garbage. And I hate
that comes down to a couple of things, right? I think I mentioned earlier in regard to welfare that one of the first steps we could do is remove the restrictions on our rights. I'm not allowed to work. I was forced to be tested for my IQ in high school because of my physical disability. 3 different times. I believe I got 140, 160, 180, depending on how many painkillers I was taking at the time.
There you go.
But because I'm living on welfare, I'm not allowed to work. Or rather, if I choose to work, I'm choosing to die because I lose my health care coverage because it's tied to my welfare, my SSI. I lose my SSI, I lose my qualifications for health care in a way that makes it affordable. That's the trap, right? For a lot of us. That's the trap.
You'd have to become a millionaire.
Well, right. So imagine if now look at it this way, right? I know you don't like money, but I'm going to use current terms.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So imagine if you weren't penalized for working if you had disability, right? What is a resource to a community? Obviously, it's labor. Labor is a resource in general, right? So if one person can work, let's call it 1 hour a week, that's 52 hours a year. That's something, and they can benefit from it. And obviously, it's contributing to whatever profession it is they're going after. I don't care what it is. Maybe it's technical. Maybe it's from home. Maybe it's simple. Who cares? If it's valuable, that's all that matters. So right now, welfare is a double punch. They're taking the taxes to pay for it, and they're reducing our resources by stopping everyone on it from working. And that's not just those with disabilities. That's single moms with 4 kids. That's, there are instances where people turn down promotions because the money would hurt them because it puts them over the line for receiving certain welfare, right?
Yeah.
We need to remove those restrictions. That's just an easy thing to do.
Yeah, especially with these borderlines being based off of pre-inflation numbers as well. Like they have not many things in the bureaucracy has been scaled.
Right. And currently, you can get what's called an ABLE account in a lot of states. The problem with that is, one, you have to jump through all the hoops, right? Being on welfare alone can be a part-time job just with the paperwork. I mean, I have to see a social worker 16 times a year so that the state can ensure that my genetic condition still affects me.
Which is ridiculous.
Right. And the system that recognizes that I was born with a genetic condition and I'm still affected by the genetic condition just recently spent resources trying to prove that it affected me between the ages of 18 and 22, even though I was found to be affected and on welfare at that time. That's so wasteful. That's so wasteful. There is so much waste in the system. I remember talking to a former welfare fraud investigator when I was canvassing last cycle, And I just happened to run into the guy. We were canvassing businesses. We were at the hockey rink. He was there with his kid, and we were having a conversation. And he brought up what he used to do because I'm a disabilities advocate. It always comes up. I'm obviously disabled. Um, and the dude turns gray, and he gets this awful look on his face, and he just says it very simply. He wasn't paid to stop welfare fraud. He was paid to kick people in need off of assistance.
Yep. Because of money.
Yep.
The people who have the most money don't want to pay anything to anybody else. They feel entitled to keep everything they quote have earned, which they don't. They exploit people, and that's my biggest problem. That's why I'm against. That's why I have the biggest problem with capitalism. Everything you said today is like, I need to be of value to somebody else in order to live. That should not be the case. No one should be able to determine your worth in society for you to be able to live. That is garbage. That is treating you like you're
my worth by finding a path.
So I think we need to work to expose these types of systems that intentionally work against individuals like that in those instances like that. Because it's important that our society stands against that sort of thing together, because then, I mean, even though someone might be put down by the system, there's somebody who can immediately step up and say, hey, that's not right, and here's what you need.
Right. So what we're doing here, if I can, it's kind of an echo chamber, right? We both, or all three of us kind of want similar things. We just have different ideas of what exactly will be and how to get there. But ultimately, we're all going in the same direction. And so my stance right now is, if we can move a little bit closer to what we all want in some way by working together, we damn well ought to do it.
Oh yeah. I definitely, but see, my concern is this, is if you have capitalism with no government regulating it, we've had that before. As a matter of fact, one instance of it, let's see, where is it? In 1911, March 25th, there was the Triangle Shirt Waste Factory fire. There were 123 women and 23 men that died because the company was allowed to lock the people in the building because they, quote, didn't want anyone taking smoke breaks or breaks because that would stop productivity. As a matter of fact,
that's a great example. Again, you're talking about what if we had no regulations, right? Which a lot of libertarians will ignorantly scream about. And my take is the process. Let's get rid of the ones that we know are hurting people. Let's get rid of the ones we know aren't helping people. Let's get rid of the ones we know are expensive and don't actually do any good. And so, I mean, we're again talking about this end result, this libertarian utopia or this whatever utopia. And I just don't agree with that at all. I don't think we'll ever get there in any instance. I think it's got to be a process, and I think we'll figure it out along the way. And I think that libertarianism stands in the face of authoritarianism, as anarchism does. I mean, let's face it; they're either the same or not far apart, depending on who you're talking to.
Oh no, we have the thing in common where we don't like government telling people what to do, which that is kind of as far as it goes. Beyond that, we have way different ways of doing things.
Right. I mean, there's anarchism, there's minarchism, there's self-regulation, there's in the interest of the people regulation, which would mean most of our regulation didn't apply as it stands today. That's a lot to work out, and that's a lot to just theorize and oversimplify in my mind. I like these conversations, but I don't find them productive because they don't bring us closer unless we're actually working on the problem at hand.
Yeah, well, see, that's part of my problem is I could barely get out of bed. So I mean, the best I could do is this right here. This is my contribution.
I see this conversation as more of an introduction to each other, mostly because I mean, like none of us have really met like prior to this, other than like Facebook interactions.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing here is that I'm not a philosophical nerd, right? I don't get the bug.
No, I understand that, but see, here's the thing, though. by not reading, like, say, theory, you may be leaving yourself out to ideas that you could use in your practical. We call it theory and praxis. Okay, you're a big. From what I can tell, you're a big praxis kind of guy. You want to go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
that's all I've ever done.
but the thing is, you still really should read up on the theory, because there may be something in that theory you could use in your praxis that you aren't using right now.
So I rely on individuals who are well read and well educated on these subjects, and I have many conversations like this constantly.
Mhm.
You can't not in the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, every good senator has a list of advisors.
Yes, and that's that's where I turn to it. Actually, one of them is a libertarian socialist, just because he's so well read and knowledgeable. Well, and he hugs me every time he sees me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, most of the socialists I know are really nice people.
You know, that's one thing I got to say about libertarian circles. I have never been hugged so much in my life.
Really?
Yep, everybody hugs me constantly.
Yeah, I unfortunately live in the pit of hell of Arizona, so yeah, it's like really. I have no fellow anarchists or anything near me, so I'm kind of on my own down here. But I'd like to be able to actually get together with some, because that'd be kind of cool. But unfortunately, down here, I'm like right by a certain military base I won't mention the name of. And yeah, everybody around here is like screaming like Trump supporter kind of thing. And I can't work with that. Those guys are thoroughly convinced that their dear leader is perfect and makes no mistakes and all that sort of thing. So, and I think none of us are into the idea of that guy getting back in charge again. I know I'm not.
One thing I've never been is an idol worshiper. A person is a person to me. I don't care what they've done, or who they think they are, or whatever the masses of people think they are. They're still just a person to me. I don't worship false idols, and I'm not even that great of a Christian. I'm a loose Christian, an unaffiliated, churchless Christian.
Yeah,
well, I'm of the opinion that it doesn't matter what you believe. If you're a decent person, you're a decent person. If you're a scumbag, you're a scumbag. Just because you label yourself a Christian doesn't mean, you're a decent human being.
Right. No, absolutely. In fact, my relationship with religion is strained and strange. I left the Methodist Church at the age of 8, just because there were 2 cliques of people who were talking nasty about each other. It was in church, and I didn't want to be around it, so I told my mother I wasn't going back. But I've remained holding certain Christian values and certain Christian ideals, and of course I read the book and I know the stories, and I understand the positive intentions, and I take from it what I believe is good, and I leave the rest behind.
Yeah, basically you like the philosophy, but you're not big on the theology.
Yeah, and actually I get into the history of it to a degree too. My documentary out.
Here's a pretty good question, I guess, like politically, like how do you establish your own morality, like as an individual? You know what I mean? Like every individual has their own morality scope, and a lot of it's based off of religion in a sense, So I mean, like atheists, for example, have their own morality.
So I would have to argue that morality is ultimately individual and experiential and developed through usually childhood and young adulthood. I mean, it continues to grow and become what it is. But I don't think any individual's morality is exactly like any other individual's.
Right. So, like, if we were to make a decision, right, that as a representative that some of our constituents may believe to be immoral and that other constituents back, right?
It's not the purpose of the government to enforce morality.
No, you can't.
Right,
you can't legislate or whatever morality. You just can't do it.
Right.
I think basically it comes from basic human empathy. I mean,
Like
either
a
you care about.
politician.
Right. So to me, the only thing that the government should do is protect the rights of the individual.
Yeah, like foreign and domestic invaders and individual rights.
But yeah, and arguably, stop doing a lot of what the government does.
I mean, I think they need to regulate if we're going to have capitalism, they have to regulate corporations because corporations will go, if not unchecked, like that thing I told you about. Then there's the mounting.
Wait. Do you mean to tell me we should enforce antitrust laws?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, did you hear about the Walmart mislabeling recyclable plastics?
No.
Greenpeace. Yeah, Greenpeace is starting an initiative against Walmart to sue them for mislabeling non-recyclable plastics as recyclable to sell them on the shelves better.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and what that does is it puts a bunch of plastics that can't be recycled into the recycling system, and then when the recycling plants see these labels that say that they are recyclable and then try to recycle them, it causes a lot of ecological damage.
Yeah.
Not good.
Magic plastic too.
That is not good at all.
If you've ever burned plastic and then inhaled it, you'd know how bad that is. So
I don't try to do that. That's not exactly one of my hobbies.
Never did that on purpose.
yeah. So and the other thing that concerns me too is the amount of Roundup that's in the water supply, like globally. Like it's pretty concerning.
Yeah. Which is the reason why I want a society where people go, hey, that's bad. It could really suck. We should stop it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to do that when you have money in politics or money,
Yep.
period. But
Well, hey guys, it's been good talking to you, but it's been over an hour, and I'm on the East Coast.
you're up late.
Yeah, I've got to put the candidate to bed.
It was nice meeting you, Thomas.
You as well. If you'd ever like to do this again, reach out.
Sure,
Yeah,
I definitely would love to.
I'd love to have you on my show too, Thomas, at any time.
Yeah, reach out. We can schedule it.
Cool.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Okay, see you later.
Take care. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yep. Bye.
And I'm also gonna head out because my phone's about to die.
Oh, that's okay. I got out of dialysis. I took a nap, but I got to get something to eat because I haven't had shit to eat since I got home. So,
Yeah, food sounds good. All right, man.
See you later.
Yeah, take care.
You too. Yep. Bye.